And to him I heard her shout, "Hey, take me out to the ball game. Take me out with the crowd."
We learned this week that among his many, many other talents, the current tenant of the White House could commandingly command any dugout from Dodger Stadium to Fenway Park, possessing as he does a baseball mind to rival any you may wish to pick from a lineup including Connie Mack, Casey Stengel or Joe McCarthy.
When you ran out the healthy arms, you ran out of really healthy, they had great arms, but they ran out. It's called sports, it's called baseball in particular, and pitchers, I guess you could say, in really particular.
But we learned that he may understand baseball better than he does economics.
North American stock markets have just closed after a brutal day of trading. They took a massive tumble following yesterday's tariff announcement.
Yes. We learned that US President Donald Trump's declaration of trade war upon pretty much everybody, including 2 islands inhabited solely by seals and penguins, and hitherto held pretty much blameless, had not prompted the universal acclaim of global markets. Cha, the naysayers with their saying nay. We learned that one person who simply does not have the word nay in his vocabulary, along with possibly the words, "I'm not saying that on the air, it's mental," is Howard Lutnick, who is somehow a billionaire and US Secretary of Commerce, if you were still wondering how fair the world is.
Remember, the army of millions and millions of human beings screwing in little screws to make iPhones, that kind of thing is going to come to America. It's going to be automated, and great Americans, the trade craft of America, is going to fix them, is going to work on them.
Just whistle while you work.
We learned, however, and at the risk of being seen to say nay, of one possible flaw in Lutnick's vision of a gleaming tech utopia in which Americans are all employed oiling the robots which build iPhones, which to be honest sounds like something robots could also do, but anyway, we learned that the numbers had been run on what an iPhone manufactured in America by robots oiled by Americans on American wages would cost in shops.
If Apple were to actually relocate its production lines from China to the US, the price of an iPhone would likely have to triple.
If you like $3,500 iPhones, we should build them in the US. If you like $1,000 iPhones, you build them in China. That's the reality, and that's why this continues to be the most absurd thing probably ever seen on Wall Street.
We learned, indeed, that we had proceeded so far through the looking glass that the role of common sense voice of reason was somehow now open to Senator Rand Paul, who is otherwise, by and large, quite nuts.
How did we all get here? I mean, the whole debate is so fundamentally backwards and upside down. It's based on a fallacy. And the fallacy is this, that somehow in a trade, someone must lose.
But... and we will be needing at this time a sound effect evoking a screeching 180-degree handbrake yanking skid that bathes the surrounding neighborhood in acrid rubbery smoke before shredding the tires to the point of bursting into flames and depositing the burning vehicle on its wheel rims.
Global stocks have rallied after a sudden tariff turnaround by Donald Trump. The US president is suspending reciprocal tariffs on most nations for 90 days.
We learned that, and not for the first time, President Trump had changed his mind, almost as if he and all people close to him were profiting fantastically from advanced knowledge of lurchers in various market indices. To be clear, that's almost as if. Pretty sure that gets us off the hook. But we learned that the orchestrator of all this havoc was buoyed by the endorsement of the only people whose opinion really matters, somebody and his good friends, they.
I had somebody say the most successful first month in the history. Now they said the most successful 100 days in the history of our country, and I believe that's right.
We have, of course, reached out to somebody and they to confirm these quotes, and we expect to hear back from somebody and they shortly, because there is surely no conceivable doubt about their existence. But we learned that the president was not alone in soliciting the counsel of the imaginary. We learned upon going into it a bit further that the intellectual inspiration for Trump's week of switching the global economy on and off and on and off again was senior counselor and recent jailbird Peter Navarro, who has previously repeatedly cited the works of an economist called Ron Vera, and anagram enthusiasts such as Congressman Jamie Raskin of Maryland may have guessed where this is going.
The basis for this most imbecilic and destructive trade war in the history of the world is the profound economic research and policy writings of one Ron Vera, a completely fictional economist conjured up by Trump advisor Peter Navarro, a real person who Elon Musk just called, quote, a moron.
And
That he is a Englishman.
we learned that the invention of pretend friends and or alter egos was a hobby that appeared to be catching on elsewhere. We learned that in Brazil, specifically in São Paulo state, a retired judge who had for 23 years pronounced sentence upon São Paulo state's scofflaws, rapscallions and ne'er-do-wells had done so from behind a constructed identity. We learned that the beak in question, born José Eduardo Franco dos Reis, a pretty ordinary Brazilian name, as will now be confirmed by Monocle's Brazil desk chief, Fernando Augusto Pacheco.
That does sound very much like the kind of thing a Brazilian would be called. Yes.
Had passed himself off his entire judicial career as the son of English aristocrats by the extremely convincing and not at all oversold alias of
Edward Albert Lancelot Dodd Canterbury Caterham Wickfield.
We learned that though Judge Edward Albert Lancelot Dodd Canterbury Caterham Wickfield has now rather unsportingly been charged with a variety of offences, no summons has been served, as he appears to have vanished. We would humbly suggest to São Paulo Plod that they call their French colleagues and ask them to look for a recently arrived employment-seeking jurist called
Jean-Pierre Louis-François Napoléon Charlemagne Eiffel Aznavour.
For Monocle Radio, I'm Andrew Mueller.